almost everybody is not the smartest person in the room. We're all somewhere in that average. But for all those people that fall into the average, the competent, that I'm good enough, or I do my job well, any one of them could stand up and go, I'm going to write a book about this, or I'm going to teach a course on this. And it's not that they were special or that they had to be intellectually special to do that. They just had to have the initiative to jump out and do it. And then you become the expert.
So what does make someone stand out at work? If you're doing good work, showing up, delivering results, you'd think that would be enough. But often, as you may have seen, it's not. And this is where side hustles come in, because what you do outside your job can start to change how you're viewed at work. In this episode, you're going to hear how Roger Smith's side hustles completely changed the trajectory of his career. Roger's a computer scientist who went on to become Chief Technology Officer for the U.S. Army, worked inside a surgical training center, and now consults in robotic surgery. As he explains, none of that came from applying for jobs in the traditional way. He started to get noticed and stand out from his peers because of what he was doing on the side. I first sat down with Roger a couple of years ago, and for today's episode, I've pulled the key excerpts from that conversation that tell the story of how he did it so that you can follow his lead. I'm Joan Possibie, and this is Side Hustle Hero. Well, welcome, Roger.
Thank you.
What motivated you to start your first side hustle business?
I didn't know I was getting into the side hustle business.
Okay.
When I went to graduate school, I had to support myself. And so my main job was getting my graduate degree. But my side hustle ended up being teaching freshman math classes.
Oh, okay.
So instead of working at McDonald's or whatever else I could have done, the math department said, look, you already have your bachelor's in math. And so I started teaching those classes kind of on the side.
Okay.
It was just an essential way to pay for school.
Sure.
But that seed grew into side hustling from then pretty much till now.
Well, what caused you to want to stay with it then?
Originally, I think a little bit of ego.
Okay.
And a little bit of boredom.
Mm.
So I'm working professionally for defense contractors. We're writing software for all kinds of simulators of military equipment.
Okay.
And that job is usually, most of the time, it's a 40-hour, maybe 45-hour a week job and go home. And when you're young and you're not married yet, you don't have children yet, you can get bored. You're like, what else can I do? So I went to the local university and said, I want to teach a class on how to build simulators, all the different technologies that are inside of a simulator.
Right.
And they said, we don't have a class like that, but we have a lot of people in the area who get degrees and work in that field. So if we had a class like that, that would be unique. No other universities have a class like that.
Mm.
But they said, yeah, create one of those. We'll put it in one of our master's degree programs and you teach it.
And an entrepreneur is born.
That's right. Then, of course, I went home and went, I got to deliver now.
What was I thinking?
That's right. 15 weeks of lecturing. What do I say? So I started putting that together and then I started teaching it. So that solved the boredom problem. It was very personally rewarding. So you get a little addicted to, wow, I'm kind of an expert here. A little tiny expert in a little corner of the world. But then a company heard about my course and they said, that course could be taught professionally in a hotel. So you take all the content, you come to a hotel conference room, we sign up people from the industry who want this knowledge, because there were a lot of people who wanted that course,
okay,
but didn't want to take a graduate degree.
I
need to know all of that stuff, but I'm not interested in going back to school. And so I said, sure, let's try that. So we packaged it up as a 3 or 4 day course, and I would teach roughly exactly the same thing I did for the university, only it would be in a hotel.
So who was your ideal client for that?
The engineers who worked at companies like Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman. They had a contract from the Air Force or from the Army to build a simulator, and that the simulator they're building is going to cost millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the engineers or computer scientists They didn't learn how to do that in school. It wasn't taught in school.
Right.
Now there are a couple, I think like 3-degree programs that teach it, but they had to learn it on the job.
Right.
And so this was a place that they could learn it in 3 or 4 days and go back to work.
So this company that approached you and said, hey, you could do this for the public. Did you partner with them in such a way that they looked after the marketing and advertising, and what was their role with you?
That's right. So first I partnered with them. I was still working in a day job with a company just like Lockheed Martin. So that was my 40 to 50 hour work week.
An aerospace company.
An aerospace company, yes. And this other company, that's exactly what I said to them. I said, I know how to teach this. I can arrive at the hotel and I can stand up and I have slides. I have PowerPoint that are colorful and they're pretty and they animate. I can do all of that. I have no idea how to get people's butts in these seats in front of me.
Yes.
And they said, no problem. We're a training company. That's exactly what we know how to do. And so all I had to do was show up and teach.
Okay. So what percentage were you keeping or they keeping? How did that work?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. When we first agreed to it, I was getting 25% of the registration fee. So if the more students we registered, the better it was for me, the better it was for them. Now they were in a strong negotiating position because they had several courses like this and several freelance instructors working for them teaching other courses, not this kind of thing.
Yes.
And so they knew a lot about negotiating with instructors, and I was new to it.
Yes.
So I got 25%, and their reasoning was we have to do all the mailing, we have to do all the printing,
Yes.
we have to do all the shipping, we have to pay the hotel. So that eats up most of our profits.
Yes. You just show up and do your thing.
That's right. And then you get to go home.
Yes.
And also after I taught a few times, I found out that in 3 or 4 days, I was earning at least twice as much as I would in a whole semester at a university.
Lovely.
And so I wasn't unhappy. I was like, okay, I went from $3,000 in a semester to maybe $10,000 in a week.
Right.
Or less than a week.
Yes.
Now, that wasn't the only deal. So over the years, I negotiated with them to get my share up closer to 1/3. But then
Nice.
as I developed a reputation, as people started to know me in the industry, I had the ability where I could get invited to teach a course. So they didn't do any advertising for this. So I went back to them and I said, so in the future, if I bring the client and I want you to print the books and do all that stuff. If I bring the client, I want 50%. And they did this. Oh, that's really. And so I argued back, well, you're not producing any flyers. You're not doing any mailings. You're not having to pay a hotel because I do it inside the company's conference rooms.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, okay, you got us over a barrel. So I got 50% for those. And
right.
Sometimes those could be even much more. I don't think I ever made more than 20,000 for one course because they based on number of heads in the class.
Okay.
But I could get more than 10.
But that story is a really good example, Roger, of you don't have to know everything. You've got your skill set that you excel at, and then you can partner with or contract out for the other stuff that you don't know about and frankly probably don't want to take the time to learn about because it's going to distract, like booking the hotels, the whole event planning side and marketing. So that was really smart on your part.
And when I started teaching the classes for a university, I had no idea that kind of commercial business even existed in our industry. So I wouldn't have shot for that as a goal.
Right.
It's something that I wouldn't have arrived at unless I had started much more modestly.
All this time, you are a full-time employee. So this side hustle is creating for you additional income, good sum of it, the prestige of it. But was there some other thing, some other benefit of having the side hustle in your industry?
Yeah, reputation.
Okay.
So ego, got that. And you heard the part about where people started to hear it about me, they would invite me to teach.
Okay.
Just in general, across the simulation industry, people started to know who Roger Smith was. They're like, oh yeah, he's the guy that teaches that course. Oh, I took that course from him. a lot of feedback of that's the best professional course I've ever had.
Nice.
Or some people were like, in my whole master's degree, I didn't learn that much information.
Okay.
Things that really stoked, anyway,
Yes. Yeah.
stoked my ego. But then out in the community, that message starts to circulate. And the more it circulates, the more people in leadership hear about it. And so what the first thing it led to was I got a phone call from the government executive who was in charge of all Army simulation. So for the U.S. Army, the purchase and construction of all simulators goes through one specific command.
Major dollars.
Major. So he called me and he said, I want you to come and be my chief technology officer.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah.
And you figure
And-
he heard about you just because of the side hustle work that you've been doing.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. There were 100 people just like me. They were my age. They had graduate degrees. They had worked on big simulator projects. They were really brilliant, but only one of them had been running around the country teaching hundreds of people how to do this work.
Mm.
So he called me, and I'm working at a company like Lockheed Martin. And he says, I want you to take this job as my chief technology officer. He said, this is an appointed position. I can just grab you out of the world and stick you in this job for 4 years. And then at the end of 4 years, your term is over and you go back to whatever it is you like to do.
Wow.
And I said, this is the kind of offer you can't refuse.
No.
You don't say no to an offer like that.
And like you said, it's not something that people get to apply for.
No.
There-
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't apply for it.
Yeah.
You can certainly schmooze for it,
Yes.
but yeah, there's no open application.
Yeah.
And so I went and talked to my boss at the company I was with, and I said, this thing happened and you can't say no. And he was the same way. He was like, no, if you get an invitation like that, you can't say
You got to
no.
do it. Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
do
We
it.
hate to lose you, but
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Hate to lose you.
yeah. So now during those 4 years, you're developing all those additional contacts too on a different level.
Yes,
On a more
very much
prestigious
so.
level too, it being an
Yes.
appointed role.
That's right. And I was still teaching the course at this time. And so I had to say to him, I said, so am I allowed to teach this course?
Right.
Because it's kind of it's a side hustle thing and I get paid for it. And he said, you can teach it, but if you ever teach it for a government organization, you have to do it for free.
Yes, because you're on their payroll.
That's right.
Got it. Okay.
He said, if you go teach it for a company, that's okay. That's all on the side and it's not related. But if you teach it for the government, it's free.
That
And I
sounds
had
reasonable.
I had several government clients that had me come in every year. And I told them, I said, your price just went down.
Excuse me, what?
Next year, it's free. Yeah, they were quite happy.
Well, tell us about the role your side hustle played in nailing an interview and landing the job with the Surgical Training Center.
So it was right after this government job. I'm coming to the end of my 4-year appointment and I'm talking to all the defense companies because that's it. The expectation is you're going back to them.
Yes.
You're going to call your previous employer and see if they want you back. And you're going to call all of the contacts you made while you're in this position and see if they want you. And of course I was doing that. But in the process, I had met people who were building medical simulators for healthcare, not surgery, but treating soldiers on the battlefield.
Oh,
And so that was kind of a new area, and I was involved in their programs. And one of the doctors there pulled me aside and he said, I know a hospital that's about to build a really opulent new surgical training center. It's not built yet. It's just a blueprint.
Okay.
And I think they could use somebody exactly like you.
Wow.
Yeah. He said they were just awarded a multi-million-dollar grant from the government to look into certain aspects of robotic surgery. And they don't have anybody that's ever worked with government. So I think you could help them out. And so he arranged for me to meet them. And first, they invited me to a basketball game. And it was very informal. They had a booth. And we all sat around and talked and watched the Orlando Magic play basketball. And I guess I passed the personality test because shortly
Right.
after that, they called me and said, okay, we'd like to do a real interview. Yeah.
But that's a fun first stage for an interview.
It really was. Yeah, it was really fun. So I went to the official interview and I sat down with the surgical doctor. She was an OBGYN who was running the entire campus of the hospital and her chief operating officer. And we're sitting around a conference table talking about the center they're going to try and build. And they asked me things like, so what do you know about simulation? And I have published a book on simulation. So I reached into my little satchel and pulled out my book and pushed it across the table. I said, here's an entire book about simulation that I've written.
Impressive.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Try to trump that, fellow applicants.
Exactly. So they passed it back and forth and went, oh, nodded. Oh, that's good. That's interesting. And then later they said, so the position you've held is called Chief Technology Officer. And I suppose that is what you'd be called here. And I said, yeah, I think so. So I reached into my satchel and I pulled out a book and I said, I've written a book about the Chief Technology Officer position.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I had two. I had two trumps. So they took that and I was like, it's cinched. It's a deal now. And the rest of the interview went well. And
Yes.
of course I got the job. Yeah.
One of the things that jumped out at me too is sometimes people can be very skilled at what they do. I'm thinking of the very competent scientist, engineer, but they're not always great communicators.
Right.
And team members. So the fact that you had the ability to step out and do the courses and hone that skill, get better at it each time you did it, as we all do when we repeat something and strive to get better at it, that's another way I think that you really set yourself apart from your peers and your colleagues because of that skill set that you were developing.
Yeah, I think that's very true. So I was a math major in college. That means a nerd.
Okay, your words, not mine.
Yeah, that's right. And when they said, in order to support yourself, you're going to have to teach these two math classes, I had to figure out how to stand up in front of a classroom and speak and teach and convey ideas from a math book into the head of a business major or into the head of an art major. And so I did come out of college with a graduate school with a skill that I didn't have going in. Mm-hmm. And then carries on to those courses that I created.
And then overall, what your story is telling me is that one of the learning points from a side hustle standpoint is thinking, okay, regardless of the industry I'm in, how can I showcase my expertise in such a way that I can monetize it, but also help me stand out from the crowd,
right,
in order to get those invitations and those promotions.
I think that's absolutely right. So regardless of how smart you are, almost everybody is not the smartest person in the room. You know, we're all somewhere in that average. But for all those people that fall into the average, the competent, that I'm good enough, or I do my job well, any one of them could stand up and go, I'm going to write a book about this, or I'm going to teach a course on this, and do the work to put together the material. And it's not that they were special or that they had to be intellectually special to do that. They just had to have the initiative to jump out and do it. And you become the expert because you did something that other people were not comfortable or not interested or didn't have the energy to do.
Right. So those of you out there listening that have talked about writing a book but haven't yet, there's one more reason to do it. So it's not necessarily about trying to become the New York Times bestseller. It's about having that calling card. Somebody told me early on with my book that books are great business cards. Yeah. Your example of landing that job when you just kept pulling books out of your briefcase is a shining example of that. And of course, costs to do it have come way down now.
They have. I think it's safe to say in one book you invest a $2,000
right
before it exists.
Yes.
Exists in a super quality style and format.
Yes.
You could get it for half of that, but I think your readers would be able to tell.
Yes. The writing, and I agree with you, and the cover design as well. Both are so important.
Right.
Roger, are you still teaching as a side hustle?
No, I'm not teaching as a side hustle anymore. I'm consulting.
And what does that look like?
So as a consultant, I'm writing future fiction novels about robotic surgery. And they're both meant for the general audience who'd be like, oh, this is science fiction about the future and surgery and medicine, and the robots have AI and they do go off and do bad things and all that. But they also encapsulate the latest research and development that's happening in robotic surgery. So they kind of present it in a light of, here's what it's going to be like when this comes out.
Ooh.
And those are calling cards for invitations to speak at surgical conferences.
Oh, wow. Even though they're fiction, because they're based in fact, and you've got the background to.
That's right. So I just spoke at one of the biggest robotic surgery conferences in the world a couple weeks ago. And that was the theme. I was like, I'm not here to tell you how the robot works now, because you've got 10 other people can tell you that. I'm here to tell you how I think the robot will work 20 years from now and what it should be able to do. And
once more, you're differentiating yourself.
Yeah, nobody else is doing that.
What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Roger?
So my best way is through my author website, which is at rddsmith.com.
Okay.
And that's where all these novels are.
Fun. And I'll be sure to include that link in the show notes.
Okay.
So what's your best tip to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dream?
You really can't plan for the long term. You don't know what's going to happen or where it's going to lead. You just have to jump out and start right now. So we talked about how most of us are in the middle, and only one person is going to be brave enough to jump out and start a course or write a book or launch a company based on something that everybody else knows but isn't going to act on. And when I started teaching at a university, I had no idea it was going to lead to teaching professional classes or invitations to be a chief technology officer at a couple of places. I didn't know it was going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just stayed in the middle with all of your cohorts and peers, you're just going to coast along where the whole middle goes, and you're going to end up where thousands of other people ended up. So you just got to jump out. You don't have to have a whole plan for how this is going to play out.
As I love to say, just take the first step.
Yes.
And when you get there, you'll see how to go further.
That's right. That's right. When I published my first book, I didn't know how to do it.
Right.
You take one step, and then you realize you need an ISBN, and you take another step, and you like everybody else, I didn't know interior book design was even a thing until I reached step 10 and needed it done.
Excellent point. Well, thank you so much, Roger, for sharing your insights and expertise into the world of robotic surgery, but also the immense value of differentiating yourself by way of a side hustle. And of course, thank you so much for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
I want to share one more strategy to boost your profile in your industry, and it comes with multiple benefits. And that's hosting a summit or conducting interviews with top experts in your field. For example, imagine you're in interior design. Organize a summit featuring 6 leading designers. The trick is securing that first guest, which you've likely got contacts in your industry to help with that. Then it's easier to attract others by showing them who's already on board. Or you could do many more single interviews. Then you could write a summary, a blog post, including the highlights and your insights on the topic. By interviewing industry experts in whatever format, you're not only building relationship with these leaders, but also positioning yourself alongside them as an insider, raising your profile, and positioning yourself as an authority alongside your expert guests. Plus, you'll have a valuable product, the recorded interviews, that adds value for your audience. I wish I had thought of this early in my career. Connecting with industry leaders through a summit can be done in virtually any field. It's excellent PR for them, an incredible learning opportunity for you. As for me, I'm currently organizing, hosting, and moderating an in-person bi-monthly business panel. The value for the experts comes from the exposure and the publicity they're getting. And on my end, while it takes time to organize, the connections and insights I receive are invaluable. And honestly, it's a lot of fun too. Let me know your thoughts on this idea. Well, that's a wrap for today. If our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider showing your support by visiting sidehustlehero.com/support. That's where you can shoot me a virtual coffee. It's a real thing and a fun way to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up. Thank you so much. In the episode description, you'll find links to connect with Roger, as well as the full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com. In case you want to catch the full episode that I did with Roger, I'll drop the link for that too. But you'll find it at sidehustlehero.com/111. That's the episode number. sidehustlehero.com/111. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start and grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.